Hey friends, I'm Quenby Gallahan, licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been a therapist here in California for over a decade, and my channel, The Grateful Therapist, is all about mental health and personal growth. Today's video is another one on my series about the grieving process. This video is going to be more about how to deal with grief or how to cope with the grieving process. I have been a grief counselor for many years. I worked at hospice in the bereavement department for about 9 years. I was a grief counselor to children, teens, families, individuals, and I ran groups. So I have a lot of information that I'd love to share with you. So this video is for you if you are grieving yourself, or if a loved one, a friend or a family member is grieving and you want to help them out, or if you're a mental health professional, maybe a counselor, and you just want some more techniques or tips for how to work with clients who are grieving. This video is part of a series I'm doing on grief and loss, so make sure you're subscribed and that you've turned on that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified when my next video comes out. First off, I'm going to just briefly and simply talk a little bit about grief because I talked more about it in my last video, so make sure to check out that video too. In my mind, grief is just all the thoughts and feelings you have after a loved one dies. You can have grief over all sorts of things, like the loss of a business or the loss of a beloved pet. But in these videos, I'm really focusing on the loss of a loved one. Many people have all sorts of thoughts and feelings, ranging from sadness, anger, regret. It's an extremely intense process for those of you that are grieving. Grieving the loss of a loved one, whether you've lost a spouse or a child or a beloved friend, is an extremely intense emotional experience. Many clients have told me after a few months they feel like they're just going crazy, or they worry that they're never going to feel like themselves again. But you will. It just takes a lot of time, and I think it really helps to see someone like a grief counselor who's trained in how to help you move through your grief in a healthy way. A healthy way is making sure that you give yourself time and space to move through all the different feelings of grief so that you don't get stuck, you don't become depressed. So over the years, I created a list of things that I pass on to clients to help them move through their grief. I call it healthy ways to help yourself through your grief. These are simple, easy things that you can do, or you can help a loved one who's grieving. You can help remind them of these things. I'm going to start with be patient. For many people, they are surprised by how long moving through the grief process takes. And I say moving through intentionally. You don't ever move on after someone you loved has died. They were a significant part of your life, and you'll probably be forever changed having lost them. Many clients come in after a few months of grieving, maybe a spouse they were with for 25 years, and they think, this is taking too long. Shouldn't I be through this by now? And I remind them that no, you're with that person for a very long time, and it's going to take some time to move through your grief and to heal. So please be patient with yourself. You're probably still going to have some of the symptoms of grief, which can be mental with all sorts of thoughts and memories. It can be physical. People feel grief sometimes in their stomach, or they get a lot of tension in their shoulders, or they want to sleep all the time, or they're having trouble sleeping. This is just because your mind is trying to process the enormity of this loss. It's going to take time, probably longer than you think. So try and be as patient with yourself as you can. Another tip I have for you if you're grieving, or if you want to support someone who's grieving, is to ask for help and support. Many of us struggle with asking for help. We feel like we should be able to do everything. And when you're grieving, you're not going to be able to function in the same way you were before. You might not have as much energy. People that are grieving have a hard time concentrating and staying focused. That's all normal. Again, you're just processing so much. So tell people what you need. Say yes if someone says, hey, can I bring over a casserole? Or if someone else can pick up your kids from school. Say yes, it's okay, it's not selfish. You might need some extra help for a little while. I also say ask for support. Many places like hospice offer free grief counseling, or you may get therapy or counseling through your insurance, or you may have to pay for it. And now is the time. You need someone who can be there just to listen to all the things you're going through. And a note on support, if you can find a grief support group in your area and you're open to group support, I highly recommend it. I've done a lot of facilitating grief support groups, and my clients have loved it. At first, they thought they'd be nervous to share in front of other people, but they're usually small groups of 5 to 12 people or something, and it is so helpful to be around other grieving people who actually get it and know what you are going through. It is so healing for people, so consider a grief support group. My next tip on how to deal with your grief is to go ahead and let yourself cry. Now is the time, if you are grieving, now is the time to let those feelings and emotions out. Don't try and hold them all in. Crying is not a sign of weakness. You really need to let those feelings out so they don't get bottled up inside you. You really need to be able to move through your grief. And one way to do that is to feel your feelings. Grief is not one of those things that's just going to go away if you keep yourself really busy or active. The feelings will come back. So when they're there, if you're feeling overwhelmed with sadness or any other difficult feeling, go ahead and let yourself cry. Another thing I would like to suggest is don't overdo it. So if you're a professional working with your clients, please remind them of this. And if you're grieving yourself, you really do have to change your expectations of what is possible for a while. Grieving people are often feeling overwhelmed just with their feelings and memories and thoughts, so you might have to cut back on what you're used to doing. You may have to ask for some help and delegate some of the tasks and really take it easy. Many grieving people need to sleep more, they need more rest in general, because it is a lot of work to grieve. On that same token, don't make any huge decisions. Don't decide to move, don't start a new relationship, don't make any big decisions while you're grieving. Now is the time to focus all your energy on healing and getting through your grief in a healthy way. Grieving is a time to be extra good to yourself. You really need to practice self-care so that you can move through things in a healthy way. So go ahead, book a massage if you can, get extra sleep, make time to do things that make you feel calm and relaxed, maybe a little bit of reading, maybe taking a hot bath, whatever you need to do to just get through the day-to-day, because grieving is really challenging. You're going to need to pad your life with extra self-care. Sometimes that includes being around people that are easy to be with, that make you feel safe and you can just be yourself with. This is not selfish at all to focus on yourself. You need to focus on yourself if you're grieving just to get through it. So it's a self-focused time, not a selfish time. You really need to add in extra time to take care of yourself. If you're a counselor or a therapist out there, please remind your clients of this. Grieving people will come in and say, Quenby, I can't believe it. I feel like I used to get so much done in a day. Now I'm hardly doing anything. Or they've forgotten something, or they can't concentrate. That's really normal. They are going through emotional upheaval. A lot of people are going through a process of re-identifying who they are and what they do in the world without their loved one with them anymore. So it's a time to really take it easy. Don't overbook your schedule. Don't try and do too much. And lastly, another thing that some clients and friends find really helpful when they're ready is to start to memorialize the person who died. So to start to look at pictures of them, to make scrapbooks, to write letters, make collages, whatever they can do for memory building. Some people tell me it's too hard to look at the pictures, it's too painful, they don't want them around at all. Other people say I have to look at the pictures every day. So it really is individual. But if you're a grief counselor, you can really help your client with this. It's really lovely for them to be able to do it with the presence of a witness and someone to be there when feelings might come up. And there's going to be all sorts of feelings. I talked about this a lot in my last video, but just know there's a normal range of challenging feelings. Yes, there's going to be sadness and missing the person, but there are so many other complex feelings, anger, regret, guilt, that it's really helpful to talk about with someone who is really trained to sit with you in that. So again, another plug for grief counselors. I really think it'd be great to recommend to your grieving friend that they maybe seek professional help, someone who's really trained to sit with them and can help them move through their grief and can help them memory build and memorialize their loved one. So I have so much more information on this. I've been a grief counselor for so many years, and I'd love to share it with you so that you can help yourself or help other people who are grieving. So check out my other videos on grief. I'll link them down below, and there'll be more coming. So make sure you're subscribed with the bell turned on so that you don't miss the next video that comes out. I'm sure I missed some stuff. Be sure to leave that in the comments for other people to read and learn and feel supported by. And I'll see you friends in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye.